Well, somebody else is maybe looking for some boots that are made for walking. Mr. Corey Graves has got the internet spun up this week. He shared his thoughts Monday night, basically implying on social media that he had his dream of being a professional wrestler taken from him, did his best to be a company man. And I think you recall, Eric, once upon a time, he did commentary for both Raw and SmackDown. So that was a time when he was the voice of the number one and the number two show in all of professional wrestling. But right now, he feels like he's been replaced by someone more famous. Of course, there is the inference there that, oh, he's talking about Pat McAfee. And a lot of people in the wrestling world were convinced, oh, this is a work. I was asked if it was a work, and I don't think it started as one, but man, if Corey really wanted to get back in the ring, controversy creates cash. He may have accidentally, on purpose, maybe created a WrestleMania moment. Wouldn't that be cool? Corey Graves and Pat McAfee at WrestleMania. Sign me up. I'm for that. I actually like that. And I know normally people hate announcer battles, but when they're both athletes, one's a former NFL player who we've seen wrestle before, and one's Corey Graves, who's been a wrestler his whole life. That could be interesting. Do you think we see that, or is this not the best idea for Corey, do you think?
I love this business sometimes.
Isn't it great?
And this is one of those times. This, to me, right now, is one of the most interesting scenarios potentially for WrestleMania. You got the big names, everybody can fantasy book, and it's all fucking awesome. But this, I am so hoping that this is an angle. By the way, did you see Dave's Meltzer's comments about this today?
Yeah, if we see him on TV, it's a work, and if we don't, then it's not.
It's not. That motherfucker studied last night. Oh my God. He must have been up all night reading.
But well, to be fair, he did tease when he woke up on Tuesday morning. I think he tweeted something like, I'm going to be at NXT tonight and I've got a lot to say, something like that. And then allegedly, again, we don't know, and I don't even want to know what's real and what's not. Like, I want to be entertained. But we saw reports that they saw him going through Orlando security, flying home Tuesday morning before NXT actually started. So he was not on the NXT show after he had promoted it. So it lends even more credit.
That's a little detail, and I don't know how this absolves Dave Meltzer of any stupidity whatsoever. The statement is what it was. If he's on TV, I get it. I get your point. But that's a level. Let's just say it's work. Let's have some fun with this. Act one, which is Pat McAfee's just doing his thing. They're both just walking down the street, living their own lives, until all of a sudden something happens, an inciting incident, as it's referred to in structural storytelling. Something happens that snatches one of them out of that reality and thrusts them into another. That, in this case, being Corey Graves. And in his emotional state of mind, tosses a hand grenade, kind of, sort of, but not really, over in Pat McAfee's direction. That is such a brilliant setup for this story. If indeed it's a setup, I have no idea. I just want it to be, because if it is, it's freaking awesome. But the level of detail that you just described in order to facilitate the story and help support it, if that happened, if they actually said, okay, let's make sure you make a comment that you're going to be at next, because we know you're not going to be, and let's make sure we get you to the Orlando airport, make sure somebody takes your picture, which they would be doing anyway. I've been in and out of there, having not been on TV for 15 years. I can't get through that airport without people asking me for my picture and my autograph. That's not me putting myself over. That's the honest truth, especially during the busy part of the day. And you can only imagine the amount of attention Corey Graves gets, because number one, he would get a lot of attention if he'd never been in front of a camera. He's a cool looking dude, but with the tats and the look and, the GQ vibe he's got going on, not too many people don't notice Corey Graves, but especially now. My point is, if they went to that extent to create the illusion, then they're really, really on their game. I fear that that's not the case. That's the part that makes me go, oh, maybe it's not.
I actually don't go the other way, man. I'll be honest with you, because you got to remember, it wasn't all that long ago in the scheme of things. We saw Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens get in a fight after a pay-per-view, and it wasn't captured by WWE cameras. It was a parking lot fight, and they just knew fans are going to be out there, and they're going to be looking for pictures and autographs and things like that. And somebody's going to whip their phone out and record it and post it to social, and we can manifest this viral moment. I feel like this regime is going to do more and more of that, especially if last week they opened the show using the words work and shoot and all that. It feels like to me, maybe this didn't start as the plan, but it becomes the plan. But I want to hope that this was a work all along, and we're going to get a really fun what's real and what's not moment at WrestleMania.
And that's the magic of this.
Yes.
Let me say this before. The magic is that sweet spot in the middle. Yeah, I know all the rest of that. Yeah, it's all scripted. Okay, great. It's, it is what it is. This is real. Or is it? Is that real? I don't know. Doing just what you and I are doing right now. That's the sweet spot. And that's what sucks people in. And here's what gets me way too excited. If you are right, and I pray that you are as a fan, for all the enjoyment that I know is to come in the future, if they're thinking at that level and thinking about ways to create virality in their storylines that so far hasn't really been done, because it's always obvious. You always know, even if it's done well, you know. But in this case, you and I are not sure. And you're much more of a wrestling fan than I am, and I spent 30 years doing it. So between the two of us and our different perspectives, if we're not sure, neither is anybody else. And if they indeed architected that point or this particular stage of it, that tells me how much fun we're going to have in the future, because it's the tip of the iceberg in terms of what's possible. What you're really doing in a weird way is you're turning back the clock. You're taking what everybody has, and people have asked me for years, Conrad, since you and I have been doing this a lot. You know, do you think you could have pulled off the NWO and Luger and all, you know, in today's environment? Is kayfabe dead because of social media, is what they're asking. I get that question every single time I go to an event. And my answer is always the same. No, somebody just has to figure out how to make it work for them instead of against them. It's kind of Sun Tzu art of war kind of shit, right? But it is what it is. And if, it's a big if, this is hopeful if, half glass full, if they're operating at that level, and this is an example of their work so far, we're going to have so much. The wrestling business is just beginning to grow. Because now you're entering a whole different level of storytelling.